There were no signs of a break-in, no shattered glass, no forced entry, no chaos spilling into the hallway. Inside the bedroom, Emily Carter lay still on her bed, her hands drawn slightly inward, her body positioned as though she had been interrupted rather than attacked. The marks on her neck were the only thing that didn't belong. Investigators would spend weeks asking the same question: how does someone get murdered in a locked apartment without letting the killer in? The answer would be far more disturbing than a broken door. At 10:42 p.m., Emily Carter called 911. Her voice was controlled at first, the way people sound when they are trying not to sound afraid. She said someone was outside her apartment. She said he wouldn't leave. She said he kept texting her, promising he only wanted to talk. The dispatcher asked her to stay on the line, asked her for her name. There was a pause. Emily. Something shifted in the background, a soft scrape, a sound too small to matter, until it did. The dispatcher repeated her name. Emily never answered. The call disconnected. When police arrived minutes later, the danger Emily had been circling for nearly 2 years had already reached its conclusion. Emily Carter grew up in Willow Creek, Ohio, a town built on predictability, the kind of place where people believed bad things happened somewhere else, to other families, in other neighborhoods. Emily was raised to be polite, accommodating, and understanding. She learned early that discomfort was not an emergency, that kindness smoothed things over, that drawing attention to yourself was unnecessary. By 25, she had done everything right: college degree, steady job in marketing, a modest apartment in Columbus. Her life looked safe because it was structured. Routine passed for protection. What Emily didn't know was that someone had already begun mapping that structure. Daniel Rowe delivered office supplies to Emily's building. To everyone else, he was forgettable. To Emily, at first, he was barely noticeable. But Daniel noticed everything. The days she arrived early, the days she stayed late, the way her posture changed when she was tired, the way she smiled when she didn't mean it. At first, his attention hid behind coincidence. Then he mentioned a hiking trail near her apartment. Emily laughed automatically. Her body reacted faster than her mind. She had never told him where she lived. From that moment on, she became aware of him everywhere, standing too close, lingering too long, appearing when there was no reason for him to be there. The messages began soon after. They were gentle at first. "Hope you got home safe. Just checking in." Emily didn't respond. The tone changed. "Did I do something wrong? Why are you ignoring me?" She blocked his number. Daniel found her online. Blocked again. New accounts appeared. New numbers. New messages. Emily told friends she felt watched. She joked about it, because jokes made fear manageable. She reported the notes left at her door to her apartment manager. There were no threats, no violence, no crime. Just persistence. And persistence, everyone told her, wasn't dangerous. Daniel did not see rejection. He saw hesitation. In his mind, Emily wasn't afraid, she simply didn't understand yet. He believed patience was proof of love, and that love, eventually, would be rewarded. At his apartment, he began writing things down: her schedule, her routines, her habits. Investigators would later find notebooks filled with Emily's name, written over and over until the paper tore beneath the pressure of the pen. He wasn't planning violence, he was planning inevitability. By late summer, Emily no longer felt safe anywhere. She slept lightly, she checked her locks repeatedly, she felt watched even when she was alone. Daniel's messages grew heavier, more urgent, carrying an emotional pressure she couldn't describe, but felt constantly. On September 18th, Emily called 911. Security footage captured her unlocking her apartment door. She never saw Daniel standing just outside the camera's view. He had followed her. Inside, Emily locked the door and set her keys down. Then came the knock. She froze. Another knock, harder. "Emily?" a familiar voice said softly. "I just want to talk." Her hands shook as she typed a message to a friend. "He's here." The knocking turned into pounding. Then it stopped. For a few fragile seconds, Emily believed the danger had passed. But Daniel had studied the building. He knew the maintenance stairwell. He knew the balcony. He knew which doors people forgot to lock. He didn't break in. He slipped inside. Inside the apartment, Emily ran. Furniture overturned, a lamp shattered. Her arms bore the marks of resistance, proof that she fought until there was nothing left to give. A neighbor heard crying through the wall. They thought it was a TV. They turned the volume up. Daniel strangled Emily in her bedroom. Afterwards, he stayed. He sat beside her for nearly an hour, holding her hand, speaking softly to her as if she were still listening. Later, he would say he told her she was safe now. Then he locked the door and left. The next morning, Emily didn't arrive at work. By noon, police were knocking. The apartment was quiet, orderly. Wrong. Emily's phone told the story she had been trying to tell for months. Hundreds of messages, missed calls, draft texts she never sent asking him to leave her alone. Cell tower data placed Daniel at the apartment that night. Security footage tracked his car. They found him at a roadside motel hours later. When officers knocked, Daniel opened the door calmly. He didn't resist. He didn't run. One officer later said he looked relieved. At trial, Emily's parents listened as their daughter's fear was reduced to timelines and exhibits. Her mother said they wanted Daniel to see them, to understand that Emily had been loved, that she had mattered beyond his obsession. The jury deliberated for less than 6 hours. Daniel Rowe was sentenced to life in prison without parole. The door was locked. That's what investigators couldn't forget, because a locked door is supposed to mean safety. It's supposed to mean the danger is outside. But Emily Carter didn't need to let her killer in. He had already been invited by silence, by politeness, by the belief that persistence wasn't dangerous, until it was. When Emily made that call, she wasn't asking for drama. She was asking for time. And time is the one thing obsession never gives back. The call ended, the door stayed locked, and the danger never had to break in. Pause. If this story unsettles you, it should, because it isn't about one man, or one apartment, or one night. It's about how easily fear is dismissed until it becomes evidence.